Say you, say me, say it together. Welcome to another video from Cardboard East. My name is Jay. I play board games from Asia and share it fine with all of you. I'm here today at the Smoky Mountains. I'm going to talk to you about 11 games from Thailand that you should check out. Now, while most of the world thinks convention season for board games is done by this time of the year, November is actually one of the busiest times of the year for board games in Asia. We have the Simon Expo, which is just this past weekend. In a few weeks, we'll have the Tokyo Game Market in Tokyo. And then in Singapore, we have the Asian Board Game Festival. So that's 3 conventions, 3 cities, 3 countries, all in 1 month. So this month, I'm sharing games from all those regions. So buckle up, it's gonna be one hell of a ride. First up is Dinner Time from Table Parade Games, and this came out last year. It's a social deduction game for 4 to 10 players, where players are either going to be on the cockroach team or on the rat team. Now, throughout the course of the game, you have to slowly deduce who else is on your team, and you're also going to be adding cards into this trash bin. Now, those cards could either be food or poison. Now, depending if you're a cockroach or if you're a rat, you're going to want more food than poison, or vice versa. And at the end of the game, whichever has more food or poison, then that team wins. Now, there's a lot of different things that you could do on your turn. You can add cards to the trash pile. You can look into the trash pile and give information as to which is more. You could also reveal cards from the trash pile, slowly revealing the contents of it, and you're racing towards the number 8. And you can also play these action cards, which do a lot of various things, like cleaning out the garbage, giving things to other people. And overall, I'm a little bit lackluster on this game. Not just because I do like the art, I like the theme, I like team-based games. But for me, this one felt a little too easy to deduce who else is on your team. My favorite part about the game is the promo card, which is the crow, which wants there to be an equal balance of food and poison. That way everyone loses and they're the only one who wins. The big problem though is that the promo card is a different shade of purple than the rest of the other cards. So you will have to sleeve them if you play with the crow. And I strongly recommend you do, because it definitely adds a little bit more variety to the gameplay. Coming out last year was Moody Bear Kingdom from Wisebox Games, a 3 to 5 player social deduction game. Now, I do like this one a little bit better than Dinner Time. Once again, it is a team-based game. You have the blue bears, you have the red bears, but you also have Batman or the Dark Knight. Now, naturally, the Dark Knight doesn't want the blue or the red team to win. So they're looking for total chaos and no one wins, and therefore they alone will win the game. Now, I do strongly recommend you play again with Batman or the Dark Knight. Essentially how it's going to happen is that on your turn, you'll just, if you feel that if you're on the red team and you feel that you have the 3 red gems, you and the other people on your team, then you just simply proclaim that you have victory, and then you reveal to see if you've won. Now, I like this game a lot because it's not easy to deduce who else is on your team. Throughout the course of the game, you have all these extra cards, but typically they don't do anything together. You have to do like a crossbow and a sword together to do certain things that are going to pass cards around. And the deck is going to get thinner and thinner and thinner, and slowly but surely, the only thing left in your hand won't be those action cards, will be the gems that you're looking for. Red team looks for red gems, blue team looks for blue gems. And the Dark Knight is looking for the magic wand of light, because eventually the dark swallow, this big nothing storm that's going to devour everything, is going to come and end the game unless someone uses the wand to prevent the end of the game. Now, the artwork is incredibly cute and adorable, and the bears are very, very cute. If you grew up watching the Care Bears, and this is something that would be very approachable to you. But don't let that cute art fool you. There's a lot of trickery that goes along with the game. The only problem I have with it is that it does take a while for you to understand what all the action cards do and all the combinations. Now, there are player aids that help you do that, but I wish it was a little bit more intuitive as to how that happened, whether that could be done with iconography or what have you. But I do think this is a solid social deduction game, and if you're always looking for that next level of social deduction games, then this is one I would recommend you try out. Next up, and again, these games are not in any particular order, is a new game called Farland from Sayū Board Games. This is a card-playing game for 2 to 4 players. Now, Farland is another one of those card-laying games where you're going to be laying cards on top of each other, whether it be a corner or a full half, or perhaps the entire card itself. The whole idea behind this is that you're building a farm. Now, granted that now you want to be placing these cards spreading out as you're thinking because you have more points, more crops, more animals, more points. But because everything needs to be tight together, you're going to be forced to overlap them. And when you overlap something, whether it be corn or a cow, you'll get more cow somewhere else or you get more corn somewhere else. The other incentive for you to keeping your farm small is, well, on the sticks. Now, there you have the brown sticks, which will be used for fencing, kind of like Agricola, where you're creating these little pastures to enclosed areas so your animals can score. There are also pipes, so you can irrigate your crops. So your crops can't be too far away from your main building. They got to be a little bit closer, thus incentivizing you to make a smaller farm. You'll also have hay, which allows you to score animals, because your animals are going to score, and if you don't have any hay or troughs, they'll score negative points. And this game is quite fast, and I was really taken back by how fast it is, because there are 12 rounds, and each round you're either drafting a building or you're drafting a card to expand your farm. Now, the buildings are going to have you score more points. The more buildings you have, more points you have. But in the advanced game, every time you build a building, you're going to acquire new technology on this tech tree, which is really, really cool. But the tech tree is going to offer a few different things. It'll allow you to use your pipes differently, allows you to use your fencing more efficiently, allow you to score animals in a different way, allow you to irrigate your crops in a different way, and even score you more victory points. What I do love about this game is that I do love how fast it is, and I do love that tech tree. My only concern is that the sticks are a little too tight. Like, it varies between the number of players that you have, and it can be really tight. So tight that it kind of forces you to have a race for the yellow sticks, the troughs, so that way your animals can score positive points as opposed to negative. Because there are technologies that allow you to use your pipes more efficiently, there are technologies that allow you to use your fencing more efficiently, but there isn't anything that allows you to use your troughs more efficiently. So it's going to be a race and to do that. So anytime there's an opportunity to get a yellow stick, you're going to take it. And there's going to be a race between the players to kind of do that. And I do like that it kind of forces you to stick to one strategy from the get-go, because it is a tight game, but it does feel like you're kind of committed to this race. You're committed to scoring your animals, otherwise you'll get negative points from it. But this is a game that I really enjoy and that I definitely want to spend a little bit more time exploring, because I do like that tech tree and I do think that elevates the game more. The other big concern that I have about the game is that, well, the scoring for the buildings and for the crops and for the animals is nowhere to be found except for the rule book. And I think it could have, well, no, the animals are on a little player aid, but I think the crops and the buildings should have been on the main board itself. I mean, there's definitely plenty of space, and it should have been included, so that way you don't have to constantly reference the rule book. But I do think Farland is a good, solid game that is definitely worth a try. If you like tile-laying games, then I definitely recommend checking it out. Next up is a little bit of an older game, came out in 2022, and that's Iroh, self-published by Hana Sedom Watana. I apologize if I got your name wrong. This is a two-player abstract, and in fact, Hana tends to do two-player abstracts, and he does something that's really interesting, is that the rules of the game are on the back of the box. There's no piece of paper on the inside, and so it's incredibly tight. I guess it lowers production costs, but it also leaves not much flexibility for the rules. You're kind of stuck with what's there on the back, and there's not much space. But I do like Iroh, and I think it's really quite fascinating. You'll place this board out, and you can arrange it in any different way. There's 4 different colors, and you're going to get your pieces and arrange them on the bottom. It'll look very much like checkers. The goal of the game is just to get a piece of yours to the end zone on the other side. Now, that is a little tricky to do because you can only move your piece depending on the colors that are on the piece itself. So if you have like a black, black, red, then it can only move to black, black, and red spaces. In fact, you can only do 2 black and 1 red and not the other way around. And you'll be able to move like a queen, like either, and a rook, like a queen. You could do orthogonally or diagonally in any direction. Now, you can move on top of the player's piece, in which case it goes into their reserve, or you can move a piece, or you could just swap a piece of yours out with another one from your reserve. So even though your piece might have been eliminated from the game, it can still come back. It's just your total number of pieces is constantly decreasing. Now, what's going to happen in a typical game of Iroh is that Well, you're going to be pushing yourself slowly forward, and eventually trying to find a way to where your opponent can't attack you, and then you just go in for the kill. Now that's going to be hard to do when there's lots of pieces on the board, but as the pieces diminish, those opportunities come up. Now, what I do like about it is it's really interesting to see these pieces and knowing that they can move in certain ways. And it can be quite fun. It's also really nice that it is colorblind friendly because it does come with stickers and symbols, even though I've never attached them because I haven't played anyone who's color challenged. But I do really love how approachable Iroh is, and I do find myself playing it more often than others. It's also easier to get two-player abstracts to the table than it is some of the other games. And I think it does something that a lot of abstracts fail to do these days, is that if you have a two-player abstract, it's got to be a banger. It's got to look really nice on the table, like aesthetically. I think Iroh definitely has that. Like you have these nice, thick plastic poker chips that kind of just spring to life on the board. That's super colorful. And it's one of these games that will garner attention at game night while people look at you and be like, wow, what game are you playing? And it's easy to teach them because the rules are so simple. In fact, they fit on the back of a box. And that's Iroh, a game that I strongly recommend you check out. Next up on the list is another old game from 2022 called Kongkang, which I think is probably the quintessential Thai game. And let me go into that. I'll go into that just a little bit. Kongkang is a card game that plays from 3 to 6 players, and it's from Board Game Nights, or BGN. Now, BGN, if you've never heard of them, well, that's a shame because they have, I think, 249,000 subscribers on YouTube. They are huge, a huge channel. But the market of Thailand is still very nascent. Like there aren't many big publishers in Thailand. There are a lot of small indie publishers there. And party games reign that market. Like party games, deduction games, like people really love these fast feedback, like quick action games that you have these really nice, high, exhilarating moments of gameplay. And that's very typical of Thailand. And if you ever played with any Thailand gamers, they are all pretty intense. Like they make lots of fun, they make lots of jokes, they're just fun to play with. You could play any Euro strategy game and it'll feel like a party game. And Kongkang is not a Euro game, but it is a nice, simple card game that really fits Thailand. Now in it, Kongkang, this giant gorilla, is asleep, and you're gonna have 3 rounds. Essentially, you're gonna have these cards, and some of them will be numbers, some of them will be action cards. And then on your turn, you're gonna take a card from your hand and then discard it to your left or to your right. And that'll dictate the round that it's gonna go. Like the round is gonna be this way, or the round is gonna be this way. And when you discard cards, you can discard multiples, like an 8 or 2 8s or 3 of a kind. And then someone on the other side will have to discard another card. Ideally though, they wanna discard the same card that you did. So if you discard an 8, they'll discard an 8. In which case, they will take a banana from you, and bananas are points. And if someone else plays an 8, then the originator person is going to pay them a banana. So it pays to add up your cards. Instead of discarding an 8, though, you can discard cards that sum up to 8, like a 3 and a 5. And then that person will have to give you bananas. So there is a little bit of randomness there about how your cards are, and low cards are really valuable because they can add up to other higher volume cards. But how the game ends is that once you think that you have the lowest score possible, you're gonna yell out Kongkang, and then everyone's gonna reveal their hand. If you sum up the cards together, if you have the lowest score, then you become in first place, and second place, and third place, or last place gets like a bad banana peel, which is worth negative points. So you're trying to go out first. It's a shedding game, but it's a party game. There are also some action cards that allow a little more of that fast feedback that I talked about. How like you can force bananas, show a card, reveal a card, draw more cards, things of that nature. And there's even an expansion that offers more of those. There's even a promo card for Taiwan, which allows you to swap your banana collection with someone else. So it's really interesting how this is a very fast game. And it's a little bit of randomness, but I think it's fast and fun with a high amount of energy. And to me, when I think of games from Thailand, the first game that I think of is Kongkang, and it's for that reason alone. Now, you may have noticed that there are a lot of social deduction games, a lot of party games in Thailand, and that's because it's still a very nascent market, as I said before. But we'll see some other games on this list that definitely break that mold. Next up on the list is another game from BGN, and that is Lotto, which is a party game for 3 to 6 players. Now, it's a real-time game, and I'm not usually keen on real-time games, but there are some interesting things with this design that I definitely want to share with you. Now, in the game, everyone's going to get a hand of cards, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9. All the cards are very cute, and they have images of something that's very iconic of Thai culture, especially specifically with the lottery and like the beliefs that you could do a lottery. And every culture has this thing where you rub your fingers together or you do certain things, you pray a certain way, and then you'll get your winning lotto numbers. But essentially, you're going to pull up a card, and this card will be a lotto ticket. And you're going to look at the order of the numbers on the card, and you'll have to put your cards from bottom to top, following the numbers that are there. So if it's 431, then you got to do 431 on your hand and put it face down and then proclaim that you got it. It's a little bit tricky though, because the cards are blue or red, and depending on what color they are, it's going to be going from left to right, or the sequence will go from right to left. So you have to be fast in this real-time game. Now, once you said you got it, you just take the card, unless someone challenges you. And if someone challenges you, and then it's revealed that you did it correctly, well, then they lose a lotto ticket and they give it to you. If they challenge you and then you were wrong, well, then they'll take that lotto ticket and you'll have to give them a lotto ticket that you have. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're thinking, okay, so whoever has the most lottery tickets wins the game. No, and that's one of the cool things about this game that I find really interesting, is that it doesn't matter how many lotto tickets you have, because there's a lottery in this game. There will be these cards that are drawn, and they'll flip over 2 cards. And then you look at all your lottery tickets, and you see if those last 2 numbers on all your tickets match the 2 numbers that appear. So if it's a 1-5, then your lotto ticket has to have 1-5 at the end, and then you win the game. So it doesn't matter how many lotto tickets you have. You can just have 1 ticket, but if it's the winning ticket, then you win. And it creates this fun, tense moment right at the end of the game. So it's this nice tense of like, who's gonna win? It's like, oh, I won! And you could be sitting on lots of lotto tickets and have wasted all your money, and that one dude who just got that 1 ticket wins. And I really, really like that design choice, because I think it fits really well with the theme. The other little twist that I really appreciated was that your hand of cards is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. But there is no 9 on any of the lotto tickets. Like, it's specifically there just to trip you up, just to weird you out. Now, you will have to play it though, because some of the lotto tickets have a question mark on there in which you can place any number. So you will have to use that 9 at certain locations, but it's there to kind of trip you up. And I really, really like that design choice. And that was Lotto from BGN. Next up is another 2-player abstract game from Hana Saedam Watana, and that's Wana. It's essentially a marble game played on a wooden board that has little grooves and tracks in it. And you're going to be moving your marbles along these grooves, trying to pin your opponent's marble so that way the opponent doesn't have a legal move. Now, I believe that I've heard of a game that was similar to this that came out about, I don't know, like 100 years ago, somewhere in North America. I forgot its name somewhere. If I have it, I'll put it like its name down here in the subtitles after we edit. I don't have any signal here in the mountains. But Wana is a really, really fast game, like maybe 5 minutes. I mean, if you're pretty good at the game, maybe it can go up to 10. But I typically make a mistake and then my opponent wins, or if I'm lucky, vice versa. The only problem that I have with Wana is that, once again, like, yeah, the rules are on the back of the box. The box is bigger this time, so you definitely have more room to kind of understand, and the rules and the gameplay are quite simple. You don't really need that. But the biggest problem I have is that the board itself is warped a little bit, and that's really problematic. I do give Wana credit because it does look fantastic on the table, because I think if you're playing a 2-player abstract game, the aesthetics have to be top-notch, top tier. It has to turn heads at game night, and people can see what you're doing and go, oh, what is that game? And Wana is definitely one of those. But at the same time, that warped board, for at least for my copy, is something that makes me not want to pull it out as often, unfortunately. And it's one of these games where you play once or twice, you've kind of seen everything there, and there isn't that much room to explore the strategy of the game for repeated plays. But it does look excellent on your coffee table. Next up is Box of Cats from Wizards of Learning. It's a 2 to 5 card player game about a box of cats. Now on each of these cards are going to be really, really adorable cats, and you're going to be building up a tableau of cats, like a tableau of like maybe 5 cats. So on your turn, you're going to be activating your tableau from left to right, doing everything that your cats, doing everything your cat cards dictate you do. There we go. I said it English. I know this language. And then you're either going to be drawing cards or adding cards to your tableau. Now, eventually, when you're adding cards or drawing cards in, you'll be revealing a catwalk card. In which case, one of your cat cards. My goodness, I could speak English. I know I could do this. But eventually, you'll reveal a catwalk card. And once the catwalk comes, well, then everyone's going to send one of their cats in their tableau to the player on their left. And these cats are going to be moving constantly throughout the course of the game. The cat abilities all range from different ways. Like you could put the head next to a tail, score more points. You could tuck cards underneath them for more points. Some cards will let you draw more cards, things of that nature. Some cards will send a cat back into that player's hand. So if you had to give one of your cats away, then you can force that cat to go into that player's hand and they'll have to waste an action to play it again. Now, I do love the art of this game. I think it's really, really cute. I think the engine building is really interesting and that dynamic that you're doing. The only thing I don't like about the game is, quite frankly, the catwalk cards. I think they come up too frequently. I think 4 is... They seem to come up at least once every rotation, and I would like a little bit more time to kind of develop that engine and do something fun with it and spend more time with the cards. Except the catwalk cards come a little bit too soon and then makes the game end sooner than I would like. I would like this kind of game to have a little bit of length to it, so that way it's not just like a 5 to 10 minute game. But what's really cool about Box of Cats is that it's from an indie publisher. At least it was back in the day. Now they're much bigger and more successful. But this box is like they were folded it. This couple folded all these boxes together and they cut out the cards. And this is a very like indie level style like game. So if you're looking for these really cool indie games from Thailand, well, they're here by droves. So you definitely should check out Simon Expo one time at Bangkok. You should definitely give it a try because I think it just gets in your bones, and also you get to be in Bangkok for like a weekend. What's more fun than that? Next up is Dying Message, which came from Wisebox Games, came out last year. This is a social deduction game through and through for 4 to 15 players. Now, 1 or more players, depending on the player count, is a killer killing people in the city. And so players will have to deduce who that player is. Now, unlike a lot of other social deduction games, this one has something for all the players to focus on, and that is the dying message. So when someone is killed, they're going to look at all these little evidence cards, and they're going to pick one to kind of give information to the rest of the players as to who their killer is, because they'll know who had killed them during the night. Then the killer is going to take some more evidence cards and kind of just mucky up the routine. So there'll be 3 cards there. One of them truth, 2 false. And then the players will discuss about, oh, what do these all mean? Now, there are different characters that do different things. Like there's a detective who will know which is the true message. So they're going to be trying not to be too obvious because then the killer will kill them next. There's like a dog who can protect you. There's a Muay Thai boxer who can make the killer not be wounded, so they will have one night of no killing, and the players can deduce a little bit more as to who the killer is. And I really, really like this game. Social deduction is something I'm always a bit iffy on, but I really like this because it gives the players something to feed off them. That it's not completely based on nothing like, oh, you look funny, you must be that one person. You must be Hitler, the werewolf, or the killer. And the Dying Message does something so unique and different this way. Now, there is an Oink game called Dying Message, and I don't like it nearly as much as this one. There are 2 versions of Dying Message out there. There's the Thai version, the original Thai version, and there's a Japanese re-release. I do like the box of the Japanese one because it's a lot smaller. It takes up less footprint. I do like the character art more on the Japanese version, but I like the evidence cards a lot more on the Thai version because they just look more realistic, real life. They have the police do not cross sign, just a lot more thematic, and you do get more of them. The artwork makes it really, really cute, and it kind of tells this tale of like you feel like you're in like an 80s slasher movie when you play this game. And this backdrop of Bangkok just makes it a lot more fun and thematic and cool. So I have to say, out of all the deduction games that have come out of Thailand, this one by far, leaps and bounds, is my favorite. Up next is Sayū. Say you, say me, say it together. Also another 2-player abstract game from Hana Saidam Watana. I apologize if I said that incorrectly. This is a tile laying game that feels very reminiscent of Othello. You're going to be taking these tiles out, and they're going to have arrows on them. You're going to place it out on what's supposed to be this imaginary grid of tiles. And depending on where the arrows flip, you're going to flip your opponent's pieces over to your side of the color. So it becomes like this area control as you pick pieces out of this bag and place them down and flip tiles over. Now, there can be a lot of AP in this game because you're thinking to yourself, like, where do I place this? And it could take a million years for waiting for someone to place a piece. But you definitely don't want to do that. But it can lead to that. But it's a very simple, very light game that's very approachable. Everything can fit into this bag, and it barely, I mean barely fits back in the box. I'm almost tempted to get rid of the box entirely, but the rules of the game are on the back of the box, so it's a little frustrating. But Sayū does something like that all abstract games do, and that it has a great table presence. It definitely pops on the table. When people are walking by, they'll look at it and may be curious as to what this unique game is. So if you are interested in two-player abstracts, this is one that I would recommend checking out. Last but certainly not least is Pizza Master Revised Edition from Wizards of Learning, and it's a 2 to 5 player game about making pizza. Now, in the game, players will be kind of like an auction style of putting their pieces around this center board of the pizza, getting ingredients to kind of summon up there, and then in reverse turn order, giving the last player a lot of power, I might add, they begin drafting these ingredients. And then on that phase, you either draft ingredients or you just pass and you start making pizzas that you have. Now, as you fulfill these orders, there's a lot of set collection rules for bonuses and things like that. But you have to be very careful because the ingredients that you don't use are all worth negative points at the end of the phase. So you want to make sure that you're pretty tight. Now, first and foremost, I have to say that the production of this game is really, really off the charts. The cards look fantastic. The UI looks fantastic. The art is great. The only thing I don't like about this game is the insert. Well, one insert I like, the insert that comes out that has all the little resources in there. The resource I don't like is the one that stays in the box because all the player pieces kind of like hug towards the side and it's really hard for them to get out and they all get trapped in there. It's quite annoying, actually. But despite how playful and how family-friendly this game looks, it's actually quite mean and quite vicious. And that's because, well, when you're drafting ingredients, you can be really, really mean. Now, and you're placing your tokens out, you're doing like this area control because whoever has the most will be able to reserve ingredients for them. But when you're drafting them, you don't have to get those right away. So even though I reserved maybe like 2 pieces of broccoli, I can start drafting the broccoli and hate drafting all the other players, and they're just kind of, out of luck, sitting there with nothing to do. Now, the last player can definitely come back from that because being last is quite powerful because then you get the first to draft your ingredients. Now, there is an advanced way to play the game. It has lots of little modules that are included in them. We typically play with all of them, and it's a game that I think that plays best with the more players. The more players you have, definitely the more fun it is. At 2, it's okay, but like at 3, 4, and 5 especially, it really begins to hum and sing. This is a game that definitely impressed me, and it's definitely one of the best pizza games out there today. So if you're thinking about pizza and you think about games from Thailand, then I strongly recommend you check out Pizza Master. But now, after a long hike, I think it's time to treat myself. Once again, my name's Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. If you like what you see here and you want to see more, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.